The arrival. The train hissed as it pulled into the dusty platform of Dusty Hollow Station, a forgotten little town on the edge of the Texas frontier. The air shimmered with heat, and the dry wind carried whispers of stories long buried in the sand. It was a quiet afternoon in 1889, the kind that came and went without much fuss, until she stepped off the train. No one noticed her at first. Most passengers were locals returning from the city or merchants with crates of goods. But then she emerged, her white wedding dress dusted from travel, her veil pulled down over her face, and in her hands, a bouquet of wilted roses. She looked like a ghost from another world, or a woman fleeing one. Luke Callahan, the town's quietest cowboy, stood at the far end of the platform, leaning against a post, his wide-brimmed hat tilted low to shield his eyes from the sun. He'd come to collect a saddle he'd ordered months ago, not expecting anything or anyone to change his day or his life. But as the woman stumbled, nearly tripping on her hem, Luke instinctively stepped forward and caught her by the arm. "You all right, miss?" he asked, voice low, steady. She looked up, startled. Her eyes, green like prairie grass after rain, searched his. "I need help," she whispered. "Please, I don't have much time." Luke glanced around. No one else seemed to notice or care. A few townsfolk cast curious glances, but moved along. He could have walked away, told her to find a sheriff or someone else. But something in her voice, desperation wrapped in dignity, held him. "My name's Luke Callahan," he said. "You in some kind of trouble?" She nodded. "My name is Clara Bennett. And yes, I'm running from a man I was forced to marry today. I ran before the ceremony finished. He's dangerous, Luke. He'll come after me." Luke's brow furrowed. "Did you say forced?" Clara pulled back her veil. Her face, though beautiful, bore signs of stress, tear stains, a bruise faintly visible beneath her left cheekbone. "He's rich, powerful. My father owed him money, and I was the price. I thought I could escape on this train, but he has men. He'll come looking." A long silence followed. Luke studied her, then finally said, "You have no one else?" "No one," she said. "My mother's dead. My sister's in Chicago, but it's weeks away. I didn't know where else to go. I just had to get away." Luke took a deep breath, eyes scanning the horizon. He'd buried his wife 2 winters ago, lost her to fever. Since then, he'd kept to himself, working his land, avoiding town unless necessary. But now, here was a stranger in need, scared, alone, and clearly being hunted. "If you stay here alone, he'll find you," Luke said slowly. "And the law around here doesn't do much unless money's involved." Clara's shoulders slumped. "Then I'm doomed." "No," Luke said, surprising even himself. "You're not." She looked at him. "There's one way to protect you," he continued. "It won't be easy, and it won't be what you plan for your life. But if you marry me, right here today, you'll be my wife under the law. He won't have any claim on you, and I'll protect you. No one in this town would let harm come to my wife." Clara blinked. You do that? For someone you just met?" Luke shrugged. "You needed help. I figure I owe the world something for all the help I didn't give when my wife passed." She hesitated, searching his eyes. "Are you a good man, Luke Callahan?" "I try to be," he said simply. That was enough for Clara. "Then yes, I'll marry you." The ceremony was quick. They found the town preacher, a kind old man who didn't ask too many questions. The townsfolk gathered, whispering as the woman in the wedding dress married the quiet cowboy with the haunted eyes. When the preacher declared them husband and wife, Luke looked at Clara, not with passion or promise, but with quiet respect and unwavering protection. That night, they rode back to Luke's ranch. The sky stretched above them in a sea of stars, and the wind carried the scent of sage and dust. Clara rode beside him in silence, holding the reins with nervous fingers. At the ranch, Luke helped her off the horse and showed her to the spare room. "You'll have your privacy," he said. "No expectations. This marriage is protection, nothing more." Clara nodded. "Thank you." He paused at the door. "You don't have to tell me everything now, but if you stay, there'll be questions eventually. I just want you safe." She nodded again, touched by the kindness in a stranger's house. As the door closed, Clara leaned against the wall, and let out the breath she'd been holding for days. She was safe for now. The days that followed were filled with cautious peace. Clara helped in the kitchen, fed the chickens, and learned to ride properly. Luke kept his distance, but was never unkind. They spoke little, but when they did, it was honest. One evening, while fixing a loose hinge on the barn door, Luke asked what kind of man chases a bride who doesn't want him. Clara was sitting nearby, watching the sunset. The kind who doesn't care what a woman wants. The kind who thinks owning someone is love. Luke nodded slowly. You're not owned here. You're free. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen on her face. Thank you. But peace, they both knew, doesn't last forever. One morning, a rider appeared at the edge of the property. A black horse, a red bandana, and eyes that burned like coal. He was one of his men. Clara saw him through the kitchen window and froze. Luke came in, saw her pale face, and knew. He stepped outside, gun on his hip. The rider didn't dismount. We're looking for a woman, he said. Name's Clara. Her fiancé says she ran off. Luke's voice was steel. You won't find her here. I married Clara days ago. She's my wife now. Under the law, that makes her untouchable. The rider narrowed his eyes. We'll see about that. Luke didn't flinch. You're standing on my land. That means you either leave or you stay forever. The threat hung in the air like thunder. The rider spat in the dirt, turned his horse, and rode off. Clara came outside, hands trembling. He'll be back. Luke took her hand. Then so will I. The reckoning. The next few days passed under a veil of tension. Though the rider had left, his presence lingered like the scent of gunpowder after a shot. Clara barely slept, waking at every creak of the windmill or howl of a coyote. Luke, calm on the outside, kept his rifle near and his horses saddled. Dusty Hollow was a quiet town, but news traveled like wildfire. People talked about Luke and his mysterious bride. Some offered support. Others whispered that trouble was bound to come. Clara spent her mornings tending the garden and learning how to churn butter, her hands finding comfort in the rhythm of small chores. Luke, meanwhile, worked the fields, his figure a silhouette against the wide Texas sky. Though they shared meals and occasional smiles, their bond remained cautious, like two strangers tethered by fate rather than choice. One night, as the fire crackled low in the hearth, Clara finally spoke of her past. His name is Marcus Langford, she said softly. Luke looked up from his chair. He owns land, cattle, and men. My father borrowed money after a drought destroyed our crops. He couldn't repay it, and Marcus offered a deal, me, in exchange for clearing the debt. Luke's jaw tightened. That's not a deal. That's a threat. Clara nodded. I agreed to the wedding at first. I thought I could bear it. But the more I saw of Marcus, the more I knew what kind of life I'd be walking into. He hit a servant girl for dropping tea. He has a temper and a darkness I can't explain. Luke stirred the fire with a poker. You were brave to run. I was desperate, she replied. But I'm not sure if that's the same thing. They sat in silence after that, the kind that spoke louder than words. Outside, the wind howled across the prairie, carrying secrets and shadows with it. The next morning, Clara found a note nailed to the barn door. She's mine. I'm coming to collect. ML. She gasped and ran inside to find Luke already loading his rifle. He knows we're here, she said. He always knew. Luke replied, his voice calm but firm. Now he wants to make a show of it. Clara stepped closer. You could still walk away from this. Let me go. You didn't sign up for a war. Luke looked her in the eyes. Clara, I don't walk away from people I care about. Not anymore. Her eyes welled. Do you care? He touched her cheek gently. More than I meant to. That night, they fortified the ranch. Luke showed Clara how to handle a shotgun, how to aim steady and fire without flinching. She learned fast, grit in her heart now where fear once lived. Just before dawn, they heard the sound of hooves, many of them. Clara's heart raced. Luke kissed her forehead. Stay inside. Keep the door barred. Only shoot if they breach it. She nodded, hands trembling but steady on the shotgun. Outside, Luke stood tall as 6 riders approached, their horses kicking up dust. Marcus Langford led them, dressed in black with a silver revolver at his side and cruelty in his eyes. Luke Callahan, he said, dismounting. That girl inside belongs to me. Luke didn't move. She's my wife. She chose freedom. You don't own her. Marcus smirked. A marriage rushed through in a podunk town doesn't mean much where I come from. It means plenty here, Luke said. And if you take one step closer, you'll find out just how much. Marcus drew his revolver. The first shot cracked the air. Luke dove, rolled, and returned fire. Chaos exploded as dust and lead flew in every direction. Clara, hearing the shots, took her place by the door, finger tight on the trigger. Luke took down one rider, then another. Bullets tore through wood and splinters rained like hail. Clara fired once, straight into the chest of a man trying to sneak in through the side window. Time blurred. Smoke, sweat, shouts, and screams. When it ended, 4 men lay on the ground, wounded or worse. Marcus stood panting, blood seeping from a wound in his side, his revolver empty. Luke walked toward him, gun aimed steady. It's over. Marcus sneered. You think she'll stay with you? You think she loves a broken cowboy with dust in his pockets? Luke's voice was iron. She doesn't owe me love, just freedom, and you won't take it. Marcus lunged, but a shotgun blast stopped him cold. Clara stood behind Luke, smoke rising from the barrel. The sheriff came later that day. A full investigation followed. But after hearing the testimonies and seeing the bruises on Clara's skin, the law ruled in Luke and Clara's favor. Marcus's surviving men were arrested. His land was seized for his crimes. Clara and Luke stood on the porch that evening, watching the sun set in hues of orange and gold. For the first time in weeks, peace returned to the prairie. Clara turned to Luke. So, now that the dust has settled, what happens next? Luke looked at her. That depends on you. We got married to protect you. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. You deserve the life you choose. She smiled. I think I've already started choosing it. He looked at her, quiet hope in his eyes. I want to stay, Luke, she said. But this time, not because I'm afraid. Because I'm home. Luke reached for her hand. Then let's build something together. In the heart of the wild Texas frontier, under a sky stitched with stars, the runaway bride and the widowed cowboy began their real journey. Not one forged by fear, but one bound by choice, trust, and a love that grew where it was least expected.